This is the prelude to the top 8 as we have an elimination match coming up. Ivan taking on St. Kiwi. Each of these players are fighting for a chance to hang in there. And this should be an interesting matchup as we have the rest of these players kind of getting into a position of we're going to know what the top 8 is going to look like after this matchup here. Those players are just going to finish up their rounds. But this one should be really intense. We're hoping for a really close one.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, as soon as this match is culminated, we will have the top 8 finalized, ready to go into that. Should be very exciting.
Yeah, so treat this as a, it's going to be a really interesting show match. I'm expecting some very interesting deck lists for this one as well. We are going to be getting those in just a moment. But standing by is Flake and his guest. I'm not sure who it might be. Maybe it's Joe again? Let's take a look. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
No, Joe.
It's Martius.
Joe is currently at an intervention meeting where we're trying to explain to him what Twitter is. So we're desperately trying to get that knocked into his brain about how it's important and how it's a thing. Right. But someone who's definitely well-versed in Twitter would be my current colleague, and on the chair next to me is Mark Theus.
Once again,
he is back.
I have returned.
So now this next matchup we've got is quite interesting.
Yes.
Because these two players, Ivan and St. Kiwi at the other end over there, they're fighting for their lives. They're both 3-2 in the tournament.
Right.
And unfortunately, Mark, you did not get to advance.
No, I did not. I unfortunately did not.
So I want to ask you, when you're up against the, you're fighting for your lives, your back's against the wall. Does it get to you? Does it get in your skin? How does it change how you play?
Sure. I mean, I would definitely say this is a very, very long tournament today. So I'd say towards the end, it does get fatiguing. So you might make a few mistakes here and there as you start to get tired. So it's very important to caffeinate up, as you just did.
That's correct.
Very important. But this is going to be a very interesting matchup because they are both fighting to stay in top 8 to move on to the next part.
Exactly.
So it's going to be very interesting.
And one of the St. Kiwi actually is going to give you a little extra spice. Hopefully, I'm not sure what the bans are, but if we cross our fingers, we might actually get to see Ada, which is a fantastic extra.
Which is going to be really fun, I think.
Definitely.
Ada, yeah.
So without further ado, I think they're ready over there. Let's cross our fingers. The bans are going to be showed up, and let's kick it back to the casters and the next matchup.
All right, folks, we're going to get right into it here as we have Dr. Oh, this is not the names on the top of the frames are actually it's Ivan on top, and it is St. Kiwi on the blue side, Ivan on the red side here. As you have St. Kiwi taking Death Wish in, we're going to see it from his POV, and Ivan on the top. Looks like he's running an Ethna Elven list, which you'd be very familiar with, Swim.
Yeah, a Scorch-style Ethna list. It looks a little bit similar to the one we saw Pumpkin playing earlier. Obviously, bit of a setup when you allow yourself to line up a Scorch with stuff like archers. You've got multiple Scorches. He's probably running Shiru as well.
Safe bet. We're going to have good deck lists in our hands in just a moment, folks. There's so much going on here as we're getting to the end of the Swiss. It has been a long day already, but it's all been worth it because we're going to find out who the top 8 are, who will be fighting for that glorious Wild Hunt belt as an Arcasport touches down here for St. Kiwi to get things started here in round 6.
Yeah, so the Arcasport is obviously a fine development, just offering 1 point every turn. It's going to be met immediately with the half-health Hunter if Ivan wants to play it out. A bit of an atypical proactive play, but it still kind of forces St. Kiwi to keep up with him. Of course, you expect to see the Dagon being dropped on turn 2 or turn 3, depending. You have the Frightener in St. Kiwi's hand. So St. Kiwi has a very, very comfortable hand for this set.
Yeah, we're not 100% on St. Kiwi's list, so this could be a Nova list. It's running Gels, which has been a little bit different than some of the other lists that we've been seeing. Sometimes you put Royal Decree in this spot. Being able to develop another Arcaspore and then maybe moving on to the Dow and the Griffin combo to push out that extra tempo, and then ultimately develop your engines of Fog through Vadermaker or a Dagon. There's a lot of options here. It's definitely a safe row for Fog at this point.
Yeah, so we see the Vadermaker come out for the Fog with the Foglet, 8 points plus the weather ticking away, and Ivan has to respond. Obviously, he's going for a weather clear off the Elven Scout. Does he find it? He needs the Brigade to clear it. It looks like he has not found it immediately. So he takes the Marksman instead, damaging the Arcasport cleanly by 1. Yeah. And this Marksman, or Bowman as it is now called, is going to kill this Arcasport in just 2 more turns, because every time it moves, it's getting peppered down. Unless, of course, St. Kiwi wants to try to do something about it.
The Bowman suicide machine for the Arcasport.
That's a very cheeky grab by Ivan there.
No, I like that very much. I mean, it also puts the other Arcasport at risk. I mean, it means that at least Brewis is 100% activated with the Arcospores in the graveyard, and there is tempo to still gain from it. The Arcospore ultimately dealing that extra damage on top of everything else, kind of paying back that Bowman for all the damage that it does. But it's not ideal, obviously.
And it's kind of funny because there's actually a chance we'll see the Abaya coming out for Arrakis Venom from St. Kiwi, which would put the Bowman to 1, and then it's just a duel between the Bowman and the Arcospore to see which one can kill the other first. Here's the Isengrim Outlaw with the Artifact Compression already.
Well, it looks like Arcospore already won that duel because the Bowman would go down to the Arrakis Venom here.
If the Venom gets played.
If the Venom gets played, with the Dow being destroyed here and completely removed
he's going
from the game,
for it.
He is going to go for it.
Yeah, and there is still the 2 Strength Outlaw and the 1 Strength Hunter on the Siege row there. So St. Kiwi is going to really surge forward in tempo off of this one.
Now, he is on the blue coin, so it is not necessarily his tempo to really take advantage of, whereas Ivan would like to be more in that sort of advantageous position. He has a lot of work to do in that case, and it looks like he's probably going to hope to at least get a pass at some point, but I don't think he's going to be able to really get Kiwi down too much here, because Kiwi still has a lot of big plays. He still has the attrition to set up with Dagon Fog, but ultimately not being able to source that Dow and having that Dow ceasing to exist really hurts Deathwish's game plan.
Yeah, here's the chain coming out, and of course St. Kiwi has a pretty fantastic opportunity at a Frightener, which he might accept in the next turn or two. Typically you want to re-enable that Fog, and that's exactly how he would be looking to do it, but the tempo surge from the double chain into Aileron kind of makes it a little trickier to do that. He can if he wants to. You do want to enable that Frightener either this turn or next turn, but the Dagon first puts on even more pressure. St. Kiwi looks like he's thinking about the Dagon. I love that play here. If there is a weather clear option from Ivan, we will see it here, so he can be sure that there is none. The Frightener can come out next turn, making sure both Fogs are hitting ample targets.
Yeah, and he'd be easy to be able to take it after playing Frightener here, which is exactly the position that St. Kiwi wants to be in, to reverse that coin flip, put himself in that position where the tempo is now working for him. Unfortunately, losing the Dow makes that a little bit tougher for him. Brewis can't do anything about that, as that Dow has been turned into an artifact. So, I mean, I think that the Spy is definitely how you want to keep this going here, and then the draw will dictate kind of what happens after that.
Yeah, but with St. Kiwi generating very solidly 5 points per turn after the Frightener gets played, even if Ivan responds with the Yavin, it might not necessarily be enough to stay in the round. If this weather isn't cleared, Ivan is getting forced out one way or another.
St. Kiwi also has the opportunity to play Barbagazi from the Monster's Nest, which will combat the War Dancer that we see in Ivan's hand. It looks like the pass is just going to come out from Ivan, and none of that we foretold will now occur, as St. Kiwi is going to take the round a card down.
So Ivan will be dropping this War Dancer between rounds, most likely, but both players have Spies. You expect St. Kiwi to play the Frightener first to try to offset the War Dancer. It will be met with a quick and swift counter from Ivan's Yavin.
Guys, we are seeing Rotfiend and Sheetroll of Vergen, which is a nice little combo, especially when you can encourage row stacking. And the Rotfiend kind of tells me that this is a Nova list. Generally, you don't see Rotfiend outside of Nova lists. It's as, you know, as it is a Deathwish unit and can get you a lot of value, is likely not the most appealing inclusion in your Bronze core. So we're looking for a Nova, and I'm sure he's looking for a Nova with Gels.
Yeah, and Kiwi does have the 26 card list, so it's almost assuredly Nova. This Gales will be grabbing it later into the game. Pretty likely there's the Frightener, there's the Yavin to swing it back around, and now it is Kiwi's job to make back these 3 points. Now, luckily for Kiwi, Ivan doesn't have super fast tempo plays. He's done most of his chain, and he's burned his Aileron as well, which means that all Kiwi has to do is out-tempo him a little bit here. He has some decent opportunities to do that, and I don't think he necessarily needs to be forced out.
Yeah, and it's interesting he went ahead and played the Rotfiend here. I think that he probably could have encouraged maybe a little bit more time and patience with the Rotfiend. You could still do a lot. He has double Griffin in hand. Another opportunity, if St. Kiwi really wants to be bold, you could end up playing Sheetroll of Vergen into the Dow and then using Brewis. Double Griffin should put him in a great position to really bully this round. But I think that that's a little bit of a risky approach.
And there goes Ivan, just making sure to stay ahead of him as the race effectively begins. Will Kiwi be able to make up these now 6 points he needs to get his card back? It is all about getting the card back in round 3 because Kiwi is using a Nova deck, because Ivan is using a triple Scorch deck. Whoever can secure the last play in the scenario, i.e. whether Kiwi can catch up to Ivan before the pass or not, will dictate the game.
I truly believe that that line of play, actually using She-Troll into Dow, Brewis into Arcaspore Dow, double Griffin, is what he would be able to do to get ahead here. It would force Ivan to go down in cards.
Here he goes.
I think he might actually be going for exactly that line of play.
This is great. I think this is absolutely what you need to do. I mean, there are honestly really no two ways around this. Whoever can secure the last play will have a major standing for the game, period.
But yeah, when Kiwi was highlighting that Griffin, I thought it's definitely an opportunity that can be sought here. So I wonder if how far Kiwi's going to push that. It looks like he's thinking about it, putting the Dow in the graveyard there. No Slizzards are available, so really the only line of play to do that, outside of maybe just hoping that this was a decent enough play, Brewis is the key to this with the double Griffin.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, because Ivan does have a very hard Scorch list, because you have stuff like archers that are typically quite slow, and Ida, which you can't really fog since you need to stay ahead, and zapping is just a pretty low amount of tempo, especially when it's not killing an engine. St. Kiwi should be able to make up the tempo necessary for this. Here's the Rot Fiend, and this is going to start slamming an amazing amount of points as it dies over and over again.
This is great, too, because while the Griffin play into the Dow is great, this way he can just play the Rot Fiend into a row that Ivan is now stacking for him. No need to get the Dow out, the double Griffin into the Rot Fiend here. While the second Griffin isn't as potent as the first one, it's still a pretty solid play here, being 19 points right now.
Yeah, and of course these Griffins are going to represent basically triggering the Rot Fiend's ability, coming out at 19 points like McBeard just said, and Ivan doesn't have great ways to stay ahead of that across multiple turns.
I'm most interested in seeing Ivan's response. The thing about all of these plays that we talked about, either the Dow Resurrection or the Griffins into the Rot Fiend, all of these stay under the Scorch. Except here, that extra ping on the Frightener
is a tell.
Definitely changes things.
Yeah, when you are Kiwi, you are looking at that play, Ivan pinging his own units, and you are seeing that line for the Scorch on your 13-point Yavin.
Now, if you're in Kiwi's position, do you think, okay, you want to Scorch it? That's okay, because there's still a lot that I can do while staying under Scorch. 13 points, maybe with the Scorch is one way to look at it. It's Ethna, you can put them on Scorch. Shiru is a different story, but likely running the double Scorch isn't too outlandish lately for Scoia'tael, so it looks like Kiwi's going to stay in here. He's at least considering it.
Yeah, we'll have to see how this goes. There will be multiple Scorches hitting this round, and Ivan, after pinging his Archer like that, is setting himself up for a pretty nice tempo scenario. Now, of course, Scorch doesn't keep him ahead of Kiwi, because remember, this round is all about tempo. That's the name of the game here, but Shiru into Scorch will be enough to make that gap, and as long as Ivan can close the gap every single turn, he is going to be able to take the game home, I think.
I think so for sure, and I think that there's still a lot of options, a lot of ways that St. Kiwi can play this. He can play Gels to secure a silver card and then put Siri Nova on top of the deck. That's something that he'd be fine doing at this stage of the round. He also has the Monster Nest to secure some carryover if that's in his best interest, also proccing one of the Death Wish. Griffin, of course, still gets an additional 6 points of value from the Death Wish on the Rot Fiend.
We're seeing the Ithni hover here from Ivan. He's playing the Ithni. He's playing the ADC. What does this pull out from his deck?
We're going to have to see. It's on his side of the board. He already played Yavin.
Whoa,
unexpected.
Yeah, he only has one card left in his deck. He's actually going to be drawing into his last card. He's playing the Ithni early, and this enables him to preserve the Scorch, preserve the Shiru even, while staying ahead by a very, very solid 7 points. It's going to be up to Kiwi now to try to make this again, and I don't know if Kiwi can do it.
Yeah, it's a little tough for Kiwi.
Especially with the Shiru threat of 17 on top of everything else that Ivan's already secured.
I think maybe the Brewis line would have put him in a position where he could have done it, because he would have had the extra help from the Arcaspore on top of the Dow, which would get him more value than the second Griffin can on the Rot Fiend. And it's not too far away here. It is only a 7-point difference, ultimately 8 points to take the round here.
But I think 8 points is quite a bit, though, in terms of being able to make that up as the difference between your plays and the opponents.
But Brewis and Arcaspore is that 8 points plus the ping. So
here's the Caretaker coming out from the Gales. This could be big, but the res targets aren't really there. He's going to go for the safe choice on the Half-Elf Hunter, declining the Scout. Now Ivan needs to make the 11. He has the 11, multiple options. The Scorch will do it. It looks like he's burning the Scorch here and preserving the Renew as well.
St. Kiwi just making his decision here as the Scorch comes down, burns Yavin down. Kiwi just making sure in the match history that is exactly what happened here.
And Ivan playing these Scoia'tael pretty well. He's obviously showing he has a huge amount of aptitude for this deck, giving up round 1 when he did and just dominating this round with the Ward Answer lead, preventing Kiwi from getting ahead of him ever again. He's just in such a position of power here, right? He has the Scorches, he has everything he needs to just keep ahead every single turn.
Now, when we played Gauss, I don't think I saw it, I'm not sure if you saw it, swim with the silver card that's on top of St. Kiwi's deck, because he did go ahead and take Caretaker, which means that Nova's not there at this point.
I did not see the silver card.
So it must have been more appealing, or at least the Caretaker Temple option was more appealing to St. Kiwi, as he's just being very, very aggressive. We've seen that pay off a little bit, but being down 2 cards is incredibly risky. He has to count on being able to proc the Griffin with the proc the Dow with the Griffin, and then ultimately maybe use Barbagazi to once again proc the Dow for carryover. That will be enough to force an extra card off.
Renew on the Eastern Grim Outlaw. This will be creating an elf, of course, because his deck is effectively empty. He's going to be drawing that one last card into his deck. At the end, he finds the create effect. What silver elf is he going to play? There's the Malayan, and that's hitting pretty decent value. Definitely enough to stay ahead, but only by 4 points in this case. We're going to see the Griffin come out. No Rotfiends on the melee row, unfortunately. It's going to be hitting the Dow, and Ivan needs to make up the 13 points. He's shaking his head as he knows he cannot make this. That is it. Kiwi has gotten ahead. Ivan cannot break this. Ida is only 13. Shiru would scorch his own Frightener. Yeah. Ivan is going to have to play 2 cards here, and Kiwi has secured the round 3 even cards condition.
I think that Kiwi's aggressiveness is really great here, especially if he was putting his opponent on having Shiru, which is a pretty safe bet when you can assume that Shiru is in the Scoia'tael deck, and he only has 1 card left in his deck. So when the ping went down on the Frightener, and the Scorch went off, he must have thought, okay, well now the next best thing, because he can play so low, because Deathwish does it so well kind of in a swarmy way. Yeah. It's kind of playing under that Scorch now. So if Ivan won't be able to do this, and he can't do it, St. Kiwi is forcing him to do it here.
And Kiwi looks like he is in an extremely dominant position. Now keep in mind, he doesn't necessarily have the Nova. Here's the Arc Spore. This is going off. It died. It will be hitting the Shiru going back into the graveyard. Ivan will be making this with 1 more card. We should often see the pass coming out by Kiwi here. It'd be interesting to see what he does. But keep in mind, even though Kiwi might not be drawing Nova because of Ivan's deck style, he's got 1 card to draw. He doesn't have a free mulligan, and he's very reactive in his hand. I don't actually... Oh, Kiwi's going for it.
He's going for it. He's going to the Barbagazi. Guys, he's going to eat up the Dow, likely.
Okay.
And he's going to just go ahead and push here.
And this works perfectly fine. Ivan not having a way to break this. The Archer for 11. The Ida for 13. He has a total of 24. It's going to be a tie, and Ivan will be going out. Kiwi has shut him out of this round completely.
I think even at this point, even with the ADC was very telling, right? The ADC went ahead and pulled an Elven Scout. So what is Ivan drawing that can contest anything that he's going to top deck? Kiwi's going to take it. Really aggressive play.
That was a great push by Kiwi
there. I really like that match.
Yeah,
that was a great match.
He knew exactly what he had to do, and he did it extremely well there. Very, very close on the finish. That could have gone either way at the end, but just being blocked out of the Scorch just forced Ivan out there.
That was a big one, right? The being blocked out of the Scorch. You count on Shiru to being a huge play for you. You just couldn't get it done at that point.
Yeah, basically, Kiwi recognized that he had to play deep into a round where the Frightener was there on the board at 12 points, just completely blocking Ivan out. Now, by playing it deep there, Ivan just didn't really have a way to catch up.
We're getting ready to go into Game 2 here of this Round 6 feature match.
And McBeard and I don't know the deck list. We do not have them on hand, so this is a mystery even for us.
No, I enjoy it from time to time when golds get drawn or things get pulled out of the deck.
Who doesn't like a little surprise?
A little surprise is always good to keep things interesting. As we're just finally finishing up the Swiss, we're going to get into a little bit more in-depth games as we get into the top 8 a little bit later this evening here.
So Kiwi, having won the first game of the set, only needs to win 1 more. Ivan's going to be playing behind. He needs to take 2. It's going to be Ivan's Calvite, presumably Alchemy versus Kiwi's Ada.
And the surprises keep coming here. It's Ada Shoop.
It's Shoop.
Baby. This is going to be a good one.
And Kiwi needs to secure 1 win with this deck versus both of Ivan's deck.
Oh, I'm strapped in for this one. Anything is in his deck at this point. 15 cards. We have no idea what they are.
We see the Botchling. Yeah. We presume the Lubberkin. This is a crazy deck by Kiwi. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. I'm just now we're basically in the audience with you. for this one here. It's too bad he did keep the Kedweni Knight in for the mulligan, so that is something that's not going to be coming out from deck. So there is at least that. We can't criticize much here, but I would think that I think Kiwi would probably want to mulligan that away.
Keeping in mind, both of these players are right now 3 and 2, so Kiwi's Shoop deck here has actually made it pretty far into this.
I mean, we're assuming that Ada was never banned. We can make that a safe assumption, I think.
Okay, Kiwi's going to open with Natalis into Reinforcements, the proactive siege support. We can catch a glimpse of all the cards in his deck there.
You guys caught that? Yeah, I mean, Kiwi could be onto something here if he's been able to secure at least 3 victories against some pretty steadfast tournament players.
Now, what I'm wondering, though, is if Kiwi is even running Lebrikin, or he's just hoping to either Runestone or Ada into it.
Well, I think he's probably running Lebrikin. You need to do a little bit of thinning to assure that he has Shoop, but the best part is Kiwi definitely has it. So we can see some proper Shoop theatrics here, as there are 15 different opportunities for that card to affect this game.
If you're Ivan, there's going to be a certain point at which you realize what the list is. You see some very, very strange bronze to start, and there's going to be a moment where he has an expression on his face, and we got to be very careful to watch out for that moment.
We do have the list in front of us now. We actually get to see Nilfgaard spies being represented for the first time in these feature matches, I believe, unless I missed one earlier when I wasn't casting.
That's correct.
But we've seen a lot of alchemy and not a lot of spies, so here we have Ivan rocking the spies. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, he's playing Van Hemar early. He is set up, of course, to try to take out this siege support, and it looks like St. Kiwi is not going to be able to do too much about that. The poor effing infantry are going to be coming down, presumably on the range row. This will protect the siege support for a little while, but of course Ivan has outs to kill that. He's developing it outside of that row, which says, I don't necessarily care about this unit. It's only lasting 3 more turns anyway. I'm just going to play for maximum value since you can't move units.
Yeah, definitely 2 schools of thought on that one. At least it forces Ivan to do something else here. Obviously, Spies has a lot of things to do. Very consistent deck. If you're a new viewer and you haven't seen the Spies list yet, it's a deck that can see almost every card in the deck. Lots of easy options to get the core bronzes out, which can do a lot of stuff. Great engines in the Enforcers and the Brigades, and kind of huge tempo that kind of keeps building over time.
Kiwi's deciding what to do. He has the botchling for the 15-point play if you want to play for tempo. He has not an amazingly reactive deck, which is not necessarily what you want to see against Spy Nilfgaard. You want to be able to take out stuff like engines. You want this runestone to hit into death mold, to be able to zap the Impera Brigade here. Now, we don't know exactly what Ivan's spy list style is. Some people are running something like Rot Tosser, for example, instead of Enforcers.
Actually, we can confirm that there are no Rot Tossers. It is actually it's a solid 3 of core: Enforcers, Brigades, Infiltrators, Medics, and Emissaries. So no Nausicaa Brigade in this list. It's just a very, very consistent list. Of course, running Menno, Rainfarn, Vilgefortz, and Muzzle. It's kind of an old school spy list.
Yeah, with the muzzle as well. And Kiwi, of course, having the massive amount of tempo swing on the board. Ivan's gonna have to catch up. Will he find the chain requisite? This siege support buffing every single emissary, and these enforcers will have to take 2 shots each to kill the emissaries. That has to feel bad.
We saw this in one of the Gwent Opens, I believe. Was it Shaggy that had brought a list that had the siege supports, which actually messed with the enforcers so perfectly because all the emissaries came down in 3 as a way of kind of targeting Spy Nilfgaard? Somebody did that in one of the recent tournaments, and it was pretty effective in that particular matchup. It only got to be showcased once or twice, I think.
Yeah, it is a very big deal, though. We're going to see the Recon. This is going to pull the Trebuchet. He's playing for just a little bit more value over time, just trying to get value out here. Basically, Ivan is not really in a position to enable this Frost, and that is the worst thing about his position. Normally, you would want to be able to play your Cantarell into that, but because Kiwi is forcing him out with so much tempo, Ivan's never going to be able to play the Cantarell, and this has a real snowball effect, because when you can't get into the Frost, you fall even more behind in tempo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he was really counting on that Frost to do a little bit more work, but it was kind of his only answer to stop the overall damage and strength buildup of that Kedweni siege support, which is, it's a really threatening card. And I wonder at what point Ivan is cluing in that this could be a Shoop list.
Yeah, I've got to say, I really like Kiwi's decision to play outside of this Frost instead of trying to protect his siege support and play into it. Because if you can smash tempo in the way that Kiwi is doing, you can block out the Cantarella. When you can do that, you can disable the Frost entirely.
I love this list. I think people are going to be talking about this list if we get to see it. It's already doing so well. Spy Nilfgaard, I mean, is still pretty good. Like, Spy Nilfgaard still has a lot of ways to win, a lot of ways to control around here, but Kiwi is just crushing those points.
Yeah. Typically, what you want to do as Kiwi in a position against Spy Nilfgaard is you want to kind of draw out round one pretty long if you are going to lose it, which you often do because they have very powerful engine tools in the long round. You want to force the round out long and then maybe win a short round two with something, or round three with something like Shoop.
Another reinforced trebuchet coming on is making this a little bit harder for Ivan to do anything here. I mean, Ivan ultimately is in the position of passing a card up, but Kiwi being in control of this one is very interesting, especially with Shoop in the mix.
Now, Ivan needs to break 25 points with those 2 trebuchet shots going off every single turn. That's not necessarily going to be easy. Of course, he only has to threaten that in 2 cards. Here's the Infiltrator on the botchling. This is going to buff the Brigade and trigger the Enforcers, which is what you want to see. He will, of course, stay in this round longer, but it's going to come down to whether he's forced out of his tools or not. Kiwi is perfectly fine losing this round if he can force out enough of Ivan's combo.
It's so good that we actually get Kiwi's point of view on this one because he's already got a lot of create in Ada and, of course, the Runestone as well, and the Winch. So we've been able to get to see, and ultimately when Shoop is played, it would be agonizing to not see what options he's looking at.
Here's the Ada. He has some options here.
Olgierd.
He sees the Olgierd. Olgierd is amazing.
So
this will
good.
completely block out the pass. Now, we haven't seen a taller. Kiwi will need to draw it because otherwise this Cantarella will render the Olgierd effectively useless. That is absolutely what you want to see, though, if you are Kiwi. Ada pulling Olgierd is a pretty fantastic round one play. It will completely depend, though, on the spy situation round two, because depending on how the spies play out, carryover is either going to be extremely useful or completely useless.
I mean, at what point here is Kiwi far enough ahead of Ivan that Ivan just really can't continue? I mean, is Kiwi just kind of...
I think probably at no point. I mean, between the Emissary, the Vico Maro onto the Emissary, and the Infiltrator with the 3 engines already on board, I think Ivan will be able to press this as long as he wants, especially with the Shawnee and the Kaedweni Knight in Kiwi's hand. Although if you are Kiwi, you could eventually throw down your Shoop. You really don't want to commit it into this round, but if it means taking round 1, it could eventually be worth it. It really depends, though, if Kiwi does have Taller in the list.
Oh, man, this is a tight one here. I mean, Kiwi does have the opportunity to maybe just get another card out of Ivan ultimately. He may risk falling behind. Now 4 engines are present here for Ivan, the 2 Enforcers and the 2 Brigades. It's going to be really hard beyond this point to stay ahead.
I gotta say, this is a solid pass from Kiwi.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have the Cantarella in mind, but Kiwi's deck does have a Taller in it. 11-card deck. If he draws into the Taller after passing, he can secure staying ahead even after the Cantarella gets played, and potentially force Ivan to draw out a round 2 that he does not want to have to play into. Looks like Kiwi wants to play a little bit deeper here. He's not done yet. He's hovering the Zoria Runestone. It's a bit of a dangerous play, and there's the pass.
I think you just really had to go for the pass there. It's just otherwise you're just giving up a card.
I think that's a fantastic
Passing on
pass.
even is not what you want to do.
The biggest question here is, will Kiwi be able to draw the Taller? It's going to be a fantastic answer immediately to that Cantarella. He's got 2 draws in his 11-card deck. If he can draw that Taller, he can really bully Ivan into staying into round 2. Whereas if he can't, it will probably go to round 3 just as soon as Ivan's comfortable with it.
Ivan going through the motions there, just kind of resurrecting his emissaries, just playing whatever it gives him here. More than enough to take the round. All the Enforcers have been expended. All the Vicovar medics have been expended. There is a Brigade that's still left in the deck and an Infiltrator in hand. Fairly thin deck.
Ivan is going to take the round 1 card down. It's going to go Ivan's 6 cards for St. Kiwi's 7 in this round 2 scenario. Of course, the Olgierd blocks the dry pass. The Cantarella will be coming out. We see Adept. We see Knight Elect. 1 mulligan to try to find the Taller out.
Now that we see the Adept, we can safely know that the Frost is there.
Oh,
Gets
there
the
it
on
is.
the mulligan.
So we're going to, but we see the Rainfarn. He found the Rainfarn and mulligan the Cantarella. This will provide him enough tempo to stay ahead from the Taller. The Taller won't be enough. Rainfarn's 5 beats Olgierd's 4.
Oh boy.
And that is a big deal for Ivan here, as he's effectively secured control over this game yet again. And if he can block this Shoop from finding enough value, it's really going to come down to that. It's all going to come down to how much value this Shoop gives.
Oh, the Commando hiding in there as well. Of course. It is a Shoop, yeah, Temerian Shoop deck.
So St. Kiwi not taking the taller yet. He's making a bit of a bluff if Ivan doesn't think he has taller, and if he tries to play for a bit of bleed. We'll have to see how it works out. There are slow options that are open to Ivan. He takes the pass, not wanting to take any risks, and Kiwi can either pass and mulligan the taller or preserve it to try to play for a bit more card advantage.
Ivan kept tapping his head. He thinks he knows what's going on here. He thinks he knows what's going on here, and I think he knows. He may have figured out the secret at this point.
When you're Ivan, you see him writing down the card names every turn. There's the Ogre to free 2 points. Ivan is going to be sitting on a muzzle, and there is a delicious muzzle target in Kiwi's hand, as we can see. As soon as that Knight Elect gets played, presumably turn 1 or turn 2, that muzzle will gain huge value. Hopefully the flail will take off the armor at that point, but ultimately the name of the game in this round 3 is this Shoop value.
I know, it's interesting because especially knowing that there could be a Menno involved, there could be an Infiltrator involved. I imagine you can't play Shoop on the tall side. You probably want to see if you can get some magic done with maybe Shoop Mage, or maybe some damage done with Shoop Hunter, but I think if you play large, it's going to be just going to get Mennoed. It's going to get Infiltrated and Mennoed, and I think that having Infiltrator Menno combo plus the muzzle for the Knight Elect, Ivan's in a pretty good position here. But yeah, Shoop can make some crazy stuff happen.
Yeah, he has options. He's taking the Tormented Mage. He already did play the Bloody Flail. Did he mulligan back the Thunderbolt? Because otherwise the Tormented Mage isn't going to be finding value. He has the Knight Elect. Declined to play it early, but as soon as he does, it's going to be snapped right up.
What was the card that he had selected there? I'm trying to think if it's not the Infiltrator, so.
No, it's not.
I definitely think that, yeah, the Knight Elect is a liability here. Yeah. Sheila's going to get a lot of value as well. Sheila getting that extra drive. Sheila into Runestone can definitely do a lot.
Yeah, there are some fantastic options in Kiwi's hand. If he allows himself to have a full board, Kiwi could try to mage into a steal now. It's a bit risky, but you can achieve super high value by going for it. Nothing bad on Ivan's board to steal. You are getting a minimum 26-point Shoop. If that happens, he's declining it, going instead for a bit more of a reliable option. I think what he might do is go for a Shoop to effectively decoy the Sheila in the hand to replay that. That would achieve huge value as well.
He drew that Thunderbolt potion, which is not great. Considering the Tormented Mage, that was the Tormented Mage's pull. Just reviewing the list here.
That is the only Tormented Mage pull in the deck. So now the Tormented Mage is hitting nothing.
Yeah, he did play the Aretusa Adept for the Frost.
That's correct.
Bloody Flail has also been
played,
so that would be
the difference between that draw might actually make it, because that is a very, very unfortunate 2-point bronze in Kiwi's hand. Now here's the Joachim from Ivan a bit early, and we're seeing Kiwi potentially resist the temptation for Knight Elect. There it goes, and that's gonna be.
That's going
to be all she wrote. This muzzle is going to come down for massive value
row as well. It's going to go on the melee row where there's
already Ivan, you're looking at that, and you scoop that right up. And there's not even a necessarily guaranteed efficient way for Kiwi to take that off, because the Cursed Flail has already been played. He has some options to try to take that off, but it looks like that armor will just run rampant. Kiwi needs to have a Hail Mary Shoop to swing back to this game.
I mean, is that not what we signed up for when we saw the Shoop deck? Is that not what we wanted to see? Some sparks flying for sure. Some disgusting charm.
So here's the Runestone. He has some options. Here's an Odrin. He's going to place it on that empty row so that it goes to one of the others immediately. Now, it's going to come down to what Ivan wants to do here. Obviously, you want to develop another Knight Elect target. Unfortunately, you have nothing to really kill with Vilgefortz here. He may just play out something like a proactive Infiltrator. Bit of an awkward hand from Ivan, but he has the 20-point lead, so he doesn't necessarily mind it so much.
20-point lead with Infiltrator Menno is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be hard for even Shoop to overtake. And keep in mind, Kiwi's 2-point Tormented Mage is just that. I don't know if Shoop might have to do something crazy, and that's just the thing about Shoop, because when you need to, you can take that risk. You can look at this board state and you can say, okay, my only way of winning this game is to mage and steal that 20-point infiltrator, and you go for that.
I mean, at this point, there's really only one. I mean, there's only one terrible grab for Shoop's Charm, and it's taller, and it's not even the worst thing in the world. And there's the dead mage.
Yeah, Ivan had a bit of a reaction to that. So Kiwi, he's looking at that Shoop. You bring a Shoop deck to a tournament, you have to be, of course, very familiar with playing these lists. I think he is going to have to try to mage and grab that infiltrator. If he does try that, the earlier he does it, the better his odds are. We'll have to see. Here comes the Shawnee. He needs to make up 48 points here and one card up. Here's the Odrin off of the Shawnee, trying to get a little more value out of it.
I mean, it's such a huge hill to climb here, but you know that as long as that 20-point card is on the board, Shoop can do something.
A 44-point swing if it pulls it off. I think that might be Kiwi's only chance here. I think it absolutely might be.
But sometimes when you play a Shoop deck, you kind of know you secretly always have that out.
Yep.
Always
Here's
have
the
that.
Vilgefortz. He's going to be playing another
Burned
card
an
off of
8
this.
strength taller here.
Yeah, that's not what you like to see. That's not so bad. It's a Brigade. He has 7 cards. Thunderbolt's coming down. The 7 cards will remain.
I mean, the decoy isn't even great here. The decoy is really just probably going to add some health to the Night Elect, and then Shoop's just going to have to throw a long bomb here.
It's not necessarily what you like to see. Now, this Shoop has...
He's not even going to give it a shot!
Just
He's
gives
going
it up.
to deny us!
Man. So Kiwi right there, I think, made the play. Typically, a habit of tournament players is when you know you're losing with a deck, you preserve that information, right? You sit there, you think, I don't necessarily want to reveal this card, maybe even play those odds. That being said, if you're Ivan, you see Ivan writing all of these cards down. You have to be pretty aware what you're playing as, and we take it to game 3.
I'm surprised because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Charm on the 20-point infiltrator did win the game for Kiwi.
It was about an 8% chance.
But it was a chance.
Yes, that's correct. I believe,
Kiwi, my man.
I believe that would have taken it.
Well then, he doesn't want to win like that. He just doesn't want to win like that. Maybe I have to respect him a little bit. He just wants to win like some other way.
So Kiwi yet again using this list, and Ivan's going to be switching back to the Scoia'tael one we saw the first time. So it's a showdown between the first list from Ivan versus this one from Kiwi. Both lists we're intimately familiar with, and again, it may just come down to that Shoop value. Now, Kiwi's list does have the benefit of playing pretty low-strength cards. He's going to be pretty hard to get great Scorch value from.
It's true. It's very true. I think that, I mean, unless like something big gets buffed, I mean, there is this Kadoni Siege support. It can create some units that, you know, Ivan doesn't want to get in a position where he gets locked out in some way by Scorch again. So maybe he might be a little bit more liberal with the Scorches. This is a pretty good start here from Kiwi, though.
Yep, and that's a pretty cheeky opening with the Aretuza Adept just developing for us right away. Ivan not necessarily having an answer without, of course, using Ida. He could do it there if he wants to basically play that risk. It looks like instead he's just going to be developing his board for now.
I mean, this game could go completely different from the last game, but there's so many create options. We even see Dijkstra in the hand now, so there's even more zaniness that can occur here. Of course, with the Kadoni Siege support in hand, the reinforcement can be pulling something different. Obviously, Ada and the Runestone can be completely different.
He needs to find the Weather Clear here. He's looking for it. He's got the Hawker support, buffing the War Dancer for huge carryover potential. I like that play. That is a play saying, I know if you see Olgierd off that Ada, you take that to beat my War Dancer. I'm going to beat you with my 6-point War Dancer.
And the War Dancer hate would continue.
Yeah. So here's the Siege support coming out from Kiwi, just developing this round further. Ivan having the big tempo play off the bat with Aileron and the Elf Hunter chains, but Kiwi having the kind of long-term for the round with the Siege support and the Frost. Here comes the Yorveth from Ivan. That's going to quickly swing things back in Ivan's favor. Ivan playing the high-tempo opener here. 7-point War Dancer.
Great Yorveth right here. This denies a lot of value from St. Kiwi, plus creates a lot of value in the hand. Really one of the best points to play it. When you take out an engine with Yorveth, you feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, and it's going to be up to Kiwi to see how long he wants to play this out. He needs to hit that in 25 in 2 turns, which is definitely doable. The Frost is ticking. He can keep playing this round deeper. He can play the Trebuchet. He can play for the long round, but it might require him committing a bit of resources. Now, he has the Lubberkin and Botchling, which threatens 15, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I think the Lubberkin is definitely keeps this within reach. Would force Ivan to play a little bit higher tempo to kind of get this position back here. Shawnee early. Ooh,
Whoa,
yeah, he's really investing in this.
That's a committal play. Now, that is right in zap range of the Ida. If Ivan goes for this, he's going to be pretty happy he didn't take the clear. Having the option to clean that up is pretty nice. He also might take the compression. He's pretty familiar at this point with Kiwi's deck. There's not necessarily a better compression right off the bat.
Compression on the Kidwini Siege support.
Yes.
Yeah, you could go for that. I think Ida is also fine. I think this is probably the only weather you're going to see. So if you're fine just kind of dealing with this Frost for a couple more turns, you know, it's completely within your right to pass at this point. Although he is on the blue coin, so it is a little bit harder for him to commit here. He's going to go for the compression. Good call.
I mean, you can see him writing down things every single turn. He is intimately familiar with Kiwi's list at this point. He saw almost the entire list. He hasn't seen anything like the Dijkstra, but he infers the Shoop, I think. So he's pretty familiar with what he's dealing with, and he knows there's no better compression target there.
Going to get a chance to see what the reinforcement will pull. I'm going to guess it's going to be the Redanian Knight Elect, as we already saw Kiwi kind of try to pull those long round valuable targets from the reinforcement as he pulled the siege support last time.
And of course, Ivan knows about that. He knows it's a major threat, and the Ida will probably be preserved to the end of being able to shut that out, because of course, when Knight Elects go unanswered, they give huge value. Here's the Elven Mercenary. There's the Reconnaissance. He's going to do a bit of training. If he has another Elven Scout, he will try to go for the Weather Clear. It looks like it may be a Panther or an Archer, anything with a target ability. There it is, Elven Scout into Pyrotechnician. A pretty big tempo play, but Kiwi is just very, very casually getting this 2 or 3 points every single turn with a combination of Frost and Trebuchet here, playing the long game.
Lubber can get from within a point at least, really closes the gap nicely.
Yep.
Ada
Kiwi's thinking about Ada, and if he sees the Olgierd, you will typically go for it. Here's the Bloody Flail instead. You would often use this to clean up the Aileron, get rid of that elf tag immediately, get a little bit of point value on the board. And he's just trugging away with this Weather and Trebuchet.
Now, when I've done experimentation with some create lists, sometimes with Runestone or with a card like Ada or Philovandrel, sometimes Usurper, at what point do you make the commitment to, okay, I'm going to roll the dice here and see what I get? You want to be sure that you're going to overtake a point score at some point, but yeah, I think Kiwi probably wants the score to be very close before he commits to something like that.
Well, typically, there's a level of reactivity you have with your cards in terms of different creates being, you know, more or less reactive. When you have a very reactive create with something like Aguera or something like the Nilfgaard Runestone, you want to do that against a pretty developed board state to really increase your options. Something like Ada is pretty proactive unless you're going for something like Iris, so you can pretty much throw that out. There's the pass from Ivan. If Kiwi tries to beat this with Ada, he's going for it. He's looking for this Olgierd. Ivan is prepared. He has the 7 strength ward answer. He finds the Olgierd. He takes it, but Ivan is ready.
This is going to be good. Ivan's going to be able to push, I think, for the remainder of this and put Kiwi in a really tough spot.
That is a great call from Ivan there, knowing exactly how Kiwi is going to play, exactly what Kiwi is going to play for, and Kiwi is going to be sorely disappointed against this 7 strength ward answer hitting the board.
Pay close attention to Kiwi's camp.
Absolutely. We'll probably see Kiwi discarding the Knight from the hand to be able to pull it out with something later. There's Ivan's ward answer. Kiwi's just not too happy about that one.
That's a great pull from Dijkstra. You want to put that back in the deck. The Reconnaissance can also get it. And there's the War Dancer looking pretty good here. Now down a card, he would have to push an incredible amount of tempo, and I mean, Sheila is pretty good. The Lubberkin and Botchling definitely help things along here. He has Taller he may want to play after all.
The Taller will be very potent here. Ivan, I don't think, has a grab for Yavin off of the Eithne, unless I'm mistaken, which means that the Yavin will allow Kiwi to get his card advantage back, playing for tempo instead, slamming the 15-point Lubberkin Botchling combo. It's up to Ivan to make 13 here. He has the opportunity with Half-Elf Hunter.
Yep, easy opportunity there.
pulling it out here. He's just playing to stay ahead. Ivan isn't necessarily interested in committing anything to this round. He just wants to very comfortably stay ahead on every single given turn, even if it's by as much as a 1 point. Little known to Ivan, though, Kiwi does have the taller in hand, which means staying ahead isn't necessarily important. And I gotta say, I love this play from Kiwi, basically preserving the taller later. You know that if you play something like Botchling Lubricant A, you're increasing your chances of drawing your Shoop, which is what you're playing for. But B, on top of that, you know that Ivan has to stay ahead of you because he doesn't know you have taller, right?
Exactly.
So you play for tempo, but you're not losing points because whatever points you play, you force out of Ivan.
Dead on. I would agree with you there. And I think if Kiwi wanted to bully this round, there's a lot of opportunities to do that. But I think that ultimately he's just not going to really be able to get ahead of. I think Ivan should always be able to make up the points outside of an insane Dijkstra, which would be a huge commitment from Kiwi.
Yeah, Kiwi has some great fishing tools here. He has the Chile to draw. He has the reinforcements to draw. Once he's done potentially both of those, he will be playing the taller out, giving him a choice. And then on top of all that, he has the Dijkstra pulling the top two with the 2 draws going into round 3. He has a very, very high chance of finding his Shroop in this game. He can take it to a short round 3 before doing so and try to beat Ivan that way. Kiwi has all but secured last play against a Scorch-style deck, which is, of course, always incredible. He has the Hubert line, but he'll probably play for the Olgierd instead here. It may get zapped by the Ida. There's the Olgierd.
There's the Winch draw. So reinforce and brings it down to 7 cards. The draw for round 3 to 6, which means, yeah, it's a 33% chance that Dijkstra hits cheap. Potentially. Oh, the draw from taller as well makes it even better than that.
Yeah, the draw from taller as well. And 2 cards going into round 3. It is a very, very high chance we will be seeing the Shoop from Kiwi this round. At the same time, though, Shoop is not a fantastic finisher. It's not necessarily what you want to play in a short round like Siri Nova. It's something you want to play in a more developed board state because it's more of a reactive card, unless, of course, you're playing it for the Mage Draw card ability. There's the Ida zapping the Olgierd, just saying no to that. Ivan doesn't want to deal with that card.
And there's the taller commitment coming down here, and
there it is. Shoop is drawn, boys. So Ivan, not having a way to swing this back, is going to go on an even card round 3 with Kiwi. Kiwi, last play against Scorch deck, Shoop in hand, Dijkstra in hand.
Now, Kiwi's in a situation, he knows that Scorch is around, and he has the Scorch target in taller on Ivan's board. Do you think he's going to pressure a little bit harder here, assuming that maybe Kiwi or Ivan was holding on to some Scorches?
You can apply some real pressure here. If that does happen, we will definitely see Ivan manually discard the Scorch from hand because you don't want to use it or preserve it for round 3 in that case. But it depends on how much pressure Kiwi wants to put, because you do have the Dijkstra and the Shoop, which you don't necessarily both want to commit to around your 26 points behind them.
Looks like Kiwi's just going to keep playing this out. He may be comfortable just going into the round with Dijkstra and Shoop, knowing pretty much what you're going to pull. The reinforcement's going to get something else out. Maybe, I mean, the Knight Elect was already played, I think. Actually, I can't remember if that's the case, but I know the Kidwinny Knight's still in.
The Knight Elect is still in the deck.
Yeah, Redanian Knight, Kidwinny Knight, Knight Elect, and some other stuff. Yeah. It's a pretty
Kiwi
diverse
has some relatively proactive plays we're looking at here in terms of the Dijkstra pulling out targets on round 3. It's completely up to Kiwi exactly how long round 2 goes on. Ivan is just pulled along here for the ride. He has to keep playing as long as Kiwi keeps playing.
John Atalis still on the deck? And is it dead?
Yes, John Atalis is still on the deck.
So Winch was played, and Reinforcement has in hand. I think that may be, and the Reconnaissance was also played, so I think if John Atalis is in the deck, it'd be the worst possible pull from Dijkstra.
And when you know that you are committed to the Dijkstra and you are Kiwi, you might take a pass on this turn so you can mulligan away the Reinforcements in case you pull an Atalis later. We'll have to see if that's what he does. I've been thinking about playing the 10-point Archer. A bit of a commitment. That's actually one of the best cards he has available to him in the next round, given Scorch might not see value.
Decision being made here. It looks like he's going to go for it.
Playing out the Archer, swinging that Chile, completely locking Kiwi out of the option if he did want to use something like Shoop Hunter on Chile to swing around where Scorch was blocked, and Kiwi has to be thinking about the pass here. He can push a little harder with reinforcements if he wants to use it and risk the Natellas. Kiwi's looking. You can see he knows exactly what 7 cards are in his deck. He's looking at his list and he's considering whether he wants to take that risk.
I mean, Sheer is definitely there. Scorch is there. Etna hasn't been played yet.
I mean,
there's only so much that can be done
when
here.
You're Kiwi here, you're measuring the risk of playing into a 30 card behind versus bricking his Scorch. You do have the Scorch bricked. Here comes the reinforcement. Kiwi is pushing this reinforcement. He has the Knight Elect. If he wants to apply more pressure, the Knight Elect comes out onto the melee row, and Ivan is, again, just along for the ride. Will he manually discard the Scorch here?
Wow, such a late decision for the Knight Elect. Manually discarding the Scorch keeps you ahead. Oh man, it's really tough here. I mean, you probably just play the Reconnaissance just in case you get value out of the Scorch, potentially. I don't know how that's really possible since you have to act first there. It does at least shut that down.
Now, it's going to be up to Kiwi again. The final play, whether he...
and he's pushing! He's pushing!
Coming out. Knight. Tormented Mage. The Tormented Mage has the option for the last Thunderbolts potion, which hasn't been used. Yep. This is going to re-enable the Knight Elect. This is going to push harder. The Scorch is completely disabled. It is a 0-point card, and Kiwi is forcing Ivan out. Ivan has to discard the Scorch.
What a great read by Kiwi here. Just once again,
absolutely amazing.
Not being scared of Scorch at all. Yavin doesn't come down. That was just his green light at that point. I think it was maybe a late decision to push, given that the Knight Elect came out from the reinforcements a little late into the round. But I also was very calculated because it didn't put anything into Scorch range.
And again, Kiwi just basically making the read that Ivan's hand is either Scorch or Shira. Both of these players have seen almost the entirety of each other's decks at this point, and they've been writing it all down. This is a huge skill play from Kiwi. There's the Scorch, there's the discard, and Kiwi is very happy about that. He sees the Scorch being discarded. He knows he has the opportunity to push. He sees the Ithne. If she pulls something for too many points, Ithne can still revive this discarded Scorch, and Kiwi is measuring his options.
Reviving the discarded Scorch is, yeah, just because it wasn't played doesn't mean Ethnic can't make use of it here. So you can't go with the tall shoop. You can't go for like the 25-point shoop here. You can't go for like a really valuable duel. It's probably looking like maybe Shoop Hunter for the pings. It's probably your best situation because what is Ethna doing at this point?
It has the ability
ADC,
to
right?
play for just solid value. You have the ADC. Here's the shoot. Here's the warrior. He's going for it. Does he have the adrenaline rush? He needs to find it. He doesn't find it. Destroying enemies with 4 power isn't enough here. He couldn't find the adrenaline rush. There's the duel. He can't duel the taller. He's killing the archer. Ithne needs to be able to make this. The Knight Elect is going off. You can't Scorch, though, because the Knight Elect is just out of range. Goes off one more time. Ivan's going to need 15 points out of Ithne. He doesn't have ADC. He has to get 15 off the recon.
What's the top deck possibility for Ivan that gets it? We know Shura is still on the deck. We've already seen Reconnaissance pull out so much. At this point, it probably is an Elven Scout of some kind. I think Kiwi has the risk of pulling a dead John Natalis.
A dead John Natalis, yes.
A dead John Natalis.
A Durnian Mauler, I believe.
The Mauler is still in there. The Redanian Knight is still in there. It's
there
not
it is.
Great.
Taking it by 1 point with Ivan. We are going to top deck here.
This
Kiwi
is not over for Ivan at all.
Kiwi is looking at an Edanian Mauler. That's his best option. It is an 11-point reactive card. Here's the Natalis. You send that away. It's going to come down to what both players draw here. This is it. He doesn't find the Natalis. He finds the 8-point.
But Shiro is in the hand.
It's Outlaw, and the Olgierd comes back. You have 10 points in Kiwi's hand. Ivan has the Outlaw. This will randomly generate an elf or play a spell. It's up to Ivan what he wants to do, but I think Ivan should have this.
Ivan, show us. Show us the magic number here. What a series this has been. Either way. Either way.
A photo finish here, and Ivan shaking his head.
Oh,
and
yes.
we see what he finds Elias.
Wow.
But it's enough.
It's enough.
Oh,
oh yeah.
Ivan takes it 2-1. Fantastic set.
What a set. I didn't know how that set was going to go at all. We saw Ada. We weren't really sure. That was an electrifying set from Ivan.
That was amazing.
Kiwi. That was probably one of the most entertaining sets. Every set has been better than the last. The last set was great.
Yeah.
That set was fantastic. Ivan has forced Kiwi out of the series, and we're going to get a chance to get a look at the top 8. The round 6 is all but completed. Swim, what else do you have to say about that one?
That was absolutely incredible. I gotta say, I really respect people that bring these original and creative decks. Shoop most especially, but even something like a heavy Scorch deck from Ivan is very, very non-standard. It really makes this so much more of an exciting event, I gotta say.
Absolutely awesome, and you could tell Kiwi put a lot of time into that Shoop deck. He really knew the capabilities, paid very close attention to his opponent's decks. Really great stuff. Both players taking notes, very focused. Flake, who do you have on hand to talk about that amazing set?